It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back at Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew version 1.0 decklist of the commanders in front of us in my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The decklist is going to be down in the description for you below. As well as I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider doing all that YouTube stuff. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're continuing our way through Precon Week for Tarkir Dragonstorm, and today we're taking a look at the Mardu commander, Zurgo Stormrender. Zurgo is back as a 3-mana 3/3 Orc Warrior with Mobilize 1, so whenever this creature attacks, we're going to make a tapped at attacking warrior, sack it beginning the next end step. It says whenever a creature we control leaves the battlefield, we draw a card if it was attacking, otherwise each opponent loses a life. This is a really fun ability on a commander because, well, in a lot of ways, this pays off. This pays off exactly what you want to do, right? We want to be making these tokens attacking, and I think the really interesting thing here is Zurgo really pays us off for it either way. If it dies in combat, we draw a card. That's pretty great. And if it doesn't die in combat, everybody loses one, which is arguably better, right? So this is really fun because you got to get to care about both. I think Mobilize is a really fun mechanic because it kind of does everything that Mardu wants to anyway. Get attacking, make creatures when you're attacking, get either the damage or them dying, and profit either way. And I think Zurgo does this. It does an interesting job at it. And it, to me, adds a line of text that I think is going to make this commander a whole lot more popular than just the fact that it attacks. And that's that last sentence. Otherwise, each opponent loses a life. Because we can go aristocrats with this as well, use all those payoffs, and just really profit from our tokens dying, and really just make this deck even better than it could be if this was just trying to be a commander that was attacking. And that's why I think this Zurgo is a ton of fun, and why personally I'm really excited to mess around with Mardu for myself, because it has all the token shenanigans I love, all the attacking shenanigans I love, all of the aristocrats. But for me, you know, Zurgo will be going into my Caesar deck, but I still think this Zurgo is a lot to love. And if you're looking for just a more Tarkir themed Mardu deck, I think this is going to have a ton of fun for you. I want to say a quick thank you to my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos early for just $1 a month, check that out under the video below. But all right, Mobilize means we need to attack, baby. So let's get attacking. This precon has some great creatures, new and old, and we're going to add some great things alongside of it. Adeline, probably one of our top tier attack triggers. Doesn't even need to attack. Just whenever you attack, make a 1/1 human that's tapped and attacking every opponent. Great. We love it. This is a great ability because now we're getting tokens in the middle of combat. They have a chance to die. They have a chance to deal damage. And we're going to talk about more of how we can manipulate that in a bit. One of my favorite new cards from this precon is Anok Strike Leader. A 2-mana 2/2 dog says whenever you attack with this creature or your commander, great. Love it. This is really great because now this is going to go off whenever it or Zurgo attacks. And we want Zurgo to attack because of the Mobilize. For each opponent, create a 1/1 goblin tapped and attacking that player. This is Adeline. The only difference is, right, not as big as Adeline, doesn't have vigilance, but it actually needs our commander to attack or it. So it's a little bit narrower, but what it makes up for being too narrow is its second text box. When we can sacrifice this creature, instant speed, give all of our tokens indestructible on a turn. This is a killer ability because what this is going to do is protect your tokens at the right time. Will it protect from exile board wipes? No. But the truth of the matter is in most bracket 3 decks, your most common board wipes are going to be straight destruction board wipes, and this is going to help you out with that. The other thing that this helps you out with is, let's say we need to block with our tokens and stop a big attack that's incoming. We can sack this to give them all indestructible to block profitably. We can do this to attack profitably. There's so many ways giving our tokens indestructible can come in handy for us, and I think that versatility is what makes the Strike Leader so good. A Nimpicall, great commander in her own right. We've done videos for her on the channel, but I really like a Nimpicall in this deck is you're just making tokens that come in tapped and attacking. That whole theme is there. We're doing it, we're getting involved, and those gnomes come in and just attack our opponents, and we have other ways in the deck we'll talk about, you know, paying that off. Arabella just feels right in a deck where we're going to have creatures attacking. Arabella's ability is just really cool. Whenever it attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and we gain X, where X is the number of creatures we control with power 2 or less. Mobilize adds 1/1s. Adeline adds 1/1s. Inimpicall adds 1/1s. So many of these other abilities that we're going to talk about that add tokens on attack add 1/1s. So, or I guess in the case some of them, the occasional 2/2s, but most of the time they're 1/1s, meaning Arabella. Let's say we attack with it and a couple other creatures. We have Arabella's ability go off last. We get to be able to make all those tokens before Arabella goes off, and it could be just chunking our opponents out for 6, 7, 8, life of combat, which really adds up, especially when we're still getting into the red zone and attacking. It's not like Arabella is the only thing that goes off that turn, right? We're still attacking. We're still dealing damage. There's still the risk of Zurgo having those tokens die, right? You just start to create this ecosystem where you're dealing so much damage to your opponents. Caesar, my choice for my commander for this style, but I like I said, I actually think this is a really great choice as well. Caesar says whenever you attack, you could sack another creature. When you do, you get to choose two of the following. Make 2 1/1s with haste that are tapped and attacking, draw a card to lose a life, or dome somebody for damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control. Again, so much value making the tokens, dealing out the damage, drawing cards. Caesar's another great commander in this space, and another option for you if you're interested in that. We'll be covering him on the channel as well. Severina Rain says whenever you attack, each opponent just loses X, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So you don't get that life back like you do on Arabella, but it counts more creatures, and it says attacking creatures. So any tokens that you make off of abilities that come in tapped and attacking can count for Rain's ability. Again, just leading to more damage to your opponents. Like, this is what's just so good about this 3-color strategies. There's so many of these style of abilities that you can just stack up to hurt your opponents. I think if we're in Mardu and we're talking about attacking, we gotta have Ishin, right? Ishin, 2 heavens is 1. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent we control to trigger, it goes off second time. Doubles mobilize, doubles all of these abilities, makes them even better, and just leads to more value for us. I love to get Jack Rabbit in every deck that I can. I love this card, making a bunch of rabbits on attack. They don't come in tapped and attacking, but they will still count for some of our abilities. Helps us go wide, have some blockers, can affect some of the other things we care about that when creatures come in. I like Jackrabbit, and again, with our doubling on attacks, can make a bunch of tokens. Krenko, whenever it attacks, you put a counter on it and then make a number of 1/1 goblins equal to its power. Not tapped and attacking, but still tokens are coming in, can affect other abilities, and Krenko gets bigger as it attacks. The other big damage buff source we have on attack is Mishra, claimed by Gix. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses X and we gain X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Again, another killer ability because we don't have to attack, unlike Severina Rain, and we gain the life, which is almost better if you think about it. Get the damage in, and it's not damage, it's actually life loss, so it can get around some other things and just keep hurting our opponents. This can get doubled, just like Rain's ability with Ishin and the new Windcrag Siege that we'll talk about here in a second. Again, just great abilities. Redoubled Stormsinger is a really interesting one. Whenever this creature attacks, for each token you have that entered the battlefield this turn, create a tapped and attacking copy of it. Beginning of the end step, sacrifice those tokens. You may think, oh, but I'm limited to doing this my main one. But remember, this ability doesn't target. So technically, if I was to go to attack, and I had 5 or 6 triggers on the stack, I could put Stormsinger on the bottom, have all of my mobilize, and all these triggers go off before it. Stormsinger's going to see all of them and go, hey, you just made all those. I'm going to make another copy of those. And now you're just going to really start compounding these tokens coming in every turn. All our ETB abilities, all our damage abilities. You could just start to see where this value just starts crescendoing together into some real value in combat. Infantry Shield is a card that I think is going to work really well in a lot of these decks, especially in something like Adeline, is my thought. Quick creature has Menace and Mobilize X, where X is its power. So whenever it attacks, you're making X 1/1 warriors. Again, feels great on Zurgo, right, if you need to, but this feels perfect on something like Adeline, which is just going to get huge, and then you're just making a ton more warriors and just making all of them into real threats. If we have a deck that cares about attacking, it makes sense to play something like Mardu Ascendancy. Whenever a non-token creature we control attacks, you put a goblin on the battlefield tapped and attacking. I love it. More tokens, more creatures attacking, more doing what we want to do. And then we can sack it together a whole board +0/+3. Good way to protect ourselves from maybe some profitable blocks from our opponents if we need to help keep our creatures alive. But probably one of the best cards for this deck. came in as a card that's going to help a lot of decks because it takes that Ishin ability and just puts it on a Boros card in Windcrag Siege. Almost all of the time, we're going to choose the Mardu option. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent we control to trigger, it goes off an additional time. Getting Ishin's ability on a Boros card is huge because so many more commander decks get to play this card. I think it's criminal this is only $1 because this is going to put in work for almost every deck that gets to play it. Then, if we don't need it, or we need the tokens, the Jeskai side just makes you a Goblin token with lifelink and haste every turn. Could be relevant if you have any way to grow that Goblin token. I like that both of them work in our deck, but really that Mardu side is just near spot on what we want. And then one of the new enchantments that when I read it, I goes, oh, this is going to be fun, is Within Range. A 4-mana enchantment that makes 2 warriors when it comes in. Makes sense, right? All these other warriors being made off the Mobilize. But its second line of text is the one we care about. Whenever you attack, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures attacking them. Again, remember, it doesn't say each of the creature that attacked them. It said it's currently attacking them. So remember, all these mobilized tokens coming in, all these ones coming in off our abilities are going to count for Within Range. Put this at the bottom, put these triggers at the bottom of the stack, and just reap the benefits as you put this, getting it going. But okay, I think most of the deck cares about these attack triggers and things like that. So we need to find these pieces to come in around these pieces to make it really good. The first is, well, damage when creatures enter the battlefield. This is a very relevant thing. We've got lots of these we have access to. Impact Tremors is kind of the classic one, right? War Leader's Call just got printed last year and is a really great card, giving you that ability to deal damage to each opponent whenever a creature comes in, but also buffing all your creatures. And then we just got Crete in Foundations that makes you a Goblin whenever a Goblin attacks, and then does the same thing, 1 damage to each opponent whenever another creature comes in. These abilities, mixed with all of our mobilized triggers, are going to lead to 8, 10 damage to our opponents before we even get into combat damage. And that's what we want to make sure that our deck can hurt our opponents in combat and actually do what we want to do. The next thing I think we need to think about is, okay, Zurgo has a line of text that says if a creature dies in combat, we draw a card. And if it dies outside of combat, each opponent loses a life. And if you have ever played an Aristocrats deck or understand what that means, red alarm bells should be going off in your head that we want to find ways to sacrifice creatures for free. And we have plenty of ways to do that. In fact, we have very cheap ways to do that. Bartolome and Yeheni are both very cheap ways to sacrifice creatures. They grow themselves, in a sense. Yeheni makes itself indestructible, but Bartolome grows itself, so does something like Carrion Feeder. And we get to sacrifice a creature to do it, meaning those tokens that we make. What I really like about sacrificing creatures with these abilities is, remember, in the combat step, you declare your attackers, you declare blockers, you deal damage, and there's actually one more priority pass between after damage is dealt before your combat ends, where creatures are still considered to be attacking. The reason this step is the most well-known is for an enchantment called Reconnaissance. It's an enchantment that lets you pay 0 mana to untap a creature and remove it from combat. Allows you to still deal damage with the creature but remove it. That is the window where you can sacrifice creatures to these guys to still draw the cards if you want to while they're still attacking. But I think more often than not, we want to be sacking them main 2 to deal that damage to our opponents. And there's other free sack outlets. These are not the only 3. These are just 3 of the cheapest ones that you can use. There are so many other ways to take advantage of it. And if you want to put some extra money into the deck, it's probably where it's going to come out of. But when we say Aristocrats, what do we mean? Well, what we mean is that last part of Zurgo's text. Whenever a creature dies, each opponent loses a life. That's all these aristocrat effects aim to do, is creature dying equals damage. Alassel Core does it, but also adds gaining a life whenever a creature comes in. Great ability, we love that. Marionette Apprentice does it, having each opponent lose a life, but also lets us count artifacts as well. So if we're using treasures or things like that, we get those too. Mirkwood Bats gets to play double duty for us, having everybody lose a life whenever one comes in or we sacrifice it. We love something like this because it works really well with Mobilize. Teysa Karloff may not have an Aristocrat's ability on it, but it certainly helps them out with her top ability. If a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, it goes off an additional time. This can double the draw and the damage on Zurgo, and double the life loss on any of our other Aristocrat payoffs to just really make our payoffs worth more. The other thing is she gives our tokens Vigilance and Lifelink. Vigilance won't matter, right, for all those tokens that come in tapped and attacking, but it will matter for the Lifelink. And believe me, you may think that 5 or 10 life a turn isn't that big of a deal, but it really is into some decks where you can really start becoming a nuisance. Cutthroat and Bash Remembrance, just classic Aristocrats payoffs whenever another creature dies, losing a life for each opponent, and they actually gain us a life as well. But I think we're almost there. We've got the ETB when we can have it. We're not going to see him every game, but we might see him some games. We want to see the Aristocrat things because we really want to sacrifice our creatures and get damage. But it's just one more level, which is how do we make the tokens that are coming in hit our opponents harder than just 1/1s? Because 1/1s are easy. Our opponents will find a way to chump block 1/1s in most average, bracket 3 tables. So how do we get our 1/1s to punish our opponents harder? And there's a lot of ways we can look at this. We have things like Enduring Courage. This is whenever a creature comes in, it gets +2/+0 and haste. Well, they're already attacking, so they don't really need the haste. But a 3/1 versus a 1/1 is a big difference. That could change how our opponents block. I think some of my favorite ways to do this is with a card like Gold Knight Commander, and then a card we'll talk about the next slide. Whenever a creature comes in, all our creatures get pulse until end turn. This is huge. Can turn our 1/1s into 4/4, 5/5, 6/6s that just came in that turn. And because every creature is going to see every other creature come in if they come in at the same time, we're really going to ramp our board up. Nariv, the one from the main set, I actually really like. I like it a little bit better than the one that's in the deck for this deck, because it says if a creature we control that entered the battlefield this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that damage instead. This is really great because it doesn't say it would deal damage to a player. It just says deal damage, meaning that if it gets blocked, it's dealing double the damage to the thing that blocks it. If it's hitting a player, it's hitting double the damage. And this is just going to make sure that all of these tokens that are coming in just get to big damage. I think the obvious one when we talk about Gold Knight Commander is Cathar's Crusade. Cathar's Crusade is one of those enchantments that can take over a game, especially as you're making tokens, just flooding your board with counters, making our creatures really difficult to deal with and getting into good combat. Toby might look odd. It's a 3-mana 1/1 that makes a 4/4 when it comes in, but its second line of text is the one we really care about. As long as we have 4 more creature tokens, all of our tokens have flying. This is huge because then these tokens are coming in with flying, potentially could be unblockable for our opponents, just chipping in that damage right on our way to get in all the damage we can. And then all assault, +1/+1, and death touch for all of our creatures gives us an additional combat the turn it comes down. But death touch is huge on our 1/1s because now there are no free chump blocks on any of our tokens. If you're blocking our tokens, you need to expect that token or anything you block with it to die. And that puts a real hurt on your opponents to decide how they want to deal with your deck. But all right. We've said it before on the show and we'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Zurgo. And as much as I like this deck, I think there's a lot we can learn in testing. The first is the question of budget. I think as you're willing to put more money into a deck, you can get better. And the first card I'd add would be something like Meat Hook Massacre. I love this card. It's another Aristocrats payoff, but it has a mini board wipe option in it as well, allowing you to give -X/-X to the board when it comes in. It has that classic text, whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent loses a life, and adds that whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we gain a life. But again, perfect Aristocrats outlet. Just a little expensive. Thankfully, it got that reprint in Instructor Mastered, so it's getting better than what it used to be. Court of Embereth, when I look at the card, is exactly everything we want this deck to be. The only problem is, are we going to be able to keep the Monarchs? When it comes in, we get to become the Monarch. An opponent can take the Monarch if they can deal damage to us in combat, which is possible. It's probably improbable in the way that our deck makes tokens, but it's possible. At the beginning of our upkeep, we make a 3/1 Knight. Then if we're the Monarch, it just deals X to each opponent, where X is the number of creatures we control. I mean, there is probably a world where Embereth could be one of the best cards in our deck, just dealing 8-10 damage a turn. But the truth is we have to be the Monarch to do it. And I think it would come down to this. If you were to introduce the Monarch in your head in the games you're playing, and you see Court of Embereth always being there, then yes, this is a card for your deck. You're going to be able to profit. But if not, don't worry about it. I think there's other cards out there. And then I love Baron Steppe Siege. This is a card that I think is really interesting because I actually think that both options, unlike Windcrag Siege, where obviously the first option makes more sense to us, I think both of these are really good. The Mardu side says at the beginning of our end step, if we had a creature die under our control this turn, everybody sacrifices a creature. it's a good ability, but I worry that a lot of the times it's not going to do what the top ability is going to do, which is the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Just grow every creature on your board. More damage next turn, better, better combats. I just see the top ability being better, but the truth is, I'm not sure if we want this ability. I think it makes more sense to pay off the aristocrats than it makes to pay off this top ability. But I think there's a lot of world where there's room to figure that out in testing. Do we care about the aristocrats more or buffing our board more, right? But all right, let's do what we love to do on the channel the most and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of our playtest on the channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to determine our best plays or all of our combos, but to start getting into our game plan, getting some test hands, understanding how we build our board and what we look for in our deck. Here we're keeping a 3-lander with Carrion Feeder, so there's our sack outlet. Mayhem Devil is an aristocrat's payoff. Whenever a player sacks a permanent, it deals 1 damage to any target. It's not 1 to everybody, it's just 1 to one person, but it's still useful. Arcane Signet for some ramp, and then Taste Karlov. I like this. We've got the nice thing. We've got the 3 mana we need for Zurgo. We're actually looking. Oh, I didn't mean to hit the next turn button. I just meant to draw. We're looking right now to be able to get Zurgo down on curve. Oh, this presents a fun opportunity for Enoch Strike Leader. But the nice part about the Strike Leader is we can play it after Zurgo and still get the benefit, right? Because it says whenever it or our commander attacks. I still think we're getting. I think this probably adds the question: Do we Signet that turn, or do we put down Strike Leader and then get Zurgo down this turn and attack, as opposed to basically wasting a mana this turn? I guess we could play the Feeder this turn as well, right? Then we're not really wasting a mana, but there's probably going to end up being the question there on, do we play the Strike Leader first or do we play the Arcane Signet, right? Because sometimes tempo can matter a little bit more than mana, especially in a deck like this. Kaya is a great draw. This is a Planeswalker I was really hoping was going to get kind of talked about. The new Elspeth from Tarkir Dragonstorm, top tier. Doubles tokens. We love it. It's a $40 card. This Kaya is like a $2 or $3 card. Got reprinted in this precon, and I love it. Her -2 is the thing you want. Until end of turn, anytime you make tokens, you double that number of tokens. But you can only, it's on a minus, right? You can't do it every turn. But what I like is her +1 is equally as good. All of our creatures get death touch until end of turn. Put a counter on the creature token you control. Now, we're just giving all of our creatures death touch and saying, hey, if you're going to block, you're going to get hurt for it. Here, I mean, I think Karlov could make sense, but I kind of like the Strike Leader. I mean, Mayhem Devil could make sense, but I kind of like getting Kaya down here, just ticking her up, working to maybe do the -2 next turn. We attack, right? Zurgo makes that warrior, right? Off its mobilize. Enoch Strike Leader goes up, making a goblin attacking everybody, right? We didn't tick Kaya. Now these won't get death touch, right? Because this is only going to affect the creatures that went off when it did. So Zurgo will get death touch. But what I really like here is if any of these block and die, if any of these get blocked and they die, we draw. If not, they're going to just die on end step, and that's going to have everybody lose a life, which is perfectly fine. Let's say 1 or 2 of them get blocked, so we draw a couple cards. Everybody loses 1 or 2. That's a successful turn. I just realized we also could have sacked them to Carrion Feeder to get the counters either way, right? To grow Carrion Feeder, make it a little bit more of a threat. And now as we come to our next turn, man, Stormsinger would have been great if it had haste, but that's a-okay. Now I think it makes more sense to put Teysa down, give them that lifelink, right? Make sure that they're going to be gaining us some life as they attack. And I think now we -2 Kaya this turn to double, go to attack. That's 2 warriors, right? And that's 6 goblins, right? Because it's 1 goblin attacking each opponent, meaning we're making 2. That's 8 creatures we just made this turn, right? They all have lifelink, so they're all going to gain us some life back. And same thing, if they die in combat, we draw. If they don't die in combat, we sack them to the Carrion Feeder to keep growing it, still losing everybody a life off of Zurgo. And now we just have the best of both worlds, right? Just continuing to punish our opponent. I just realized the goblins don't automatically go away. Just realized that they don't automatically go away. I could have left them there. I kind of looped them in with the warriors in my head. We could have kept the goblins there to have attacked more this turn and had more creatures instead of sacking them to the feeder. But the truth is, I think it makes more sense to sack them to the feeder, get the counter on them, and just get the life loss. And actually now this turn, if any of them die in attacking, we draw 2 cards, right? Because of Teysa. If any of them get sacked to this carrion feeder, it's 2 life apiece. You're talking about 8 creatures, 16 life this turn, and we can do that at instant speed. Now, the problem is because if they're attacking, we draw the card instead. We don't have a choice. It's a little bit worse. But the nice thing is, now you're just talking about a bunch of counters on this carrion feeder this turn. If they all truly die after combat. I mean, again, I expect probably some of them die in combat as they get blocked. So we probably end up drawing at least a card or 2 this turn, right? Doubled once, right? At least once. But the truth is, now we're just in great shape. We gain the life off of them. And I mean, this is Magical Christmas Land. This is everything we want to see in what the deck wants to do. So I think we're good with this playtest. We kind of saw what we needed to see. Caesar will make this a little bit better on the next turn. Same thing with that Storm Singer. But we have the protection there. This can actually allow us to sack the Strike Leader to give everybody, Indestructible and Hexproof. But again, we love to see it. This is the board we want to see. Next turn, we tick up Kaya to give the Death Touch. Again, attack again. And the nice part I think I like about the feeder here, not to just continue to beat the dead horse, is if we sack the creature in combat, we get to draw, meaning we just get to decide when we want to draw with these sack outlets. But let's get into playtest number 2. I'm sorry, this video is probably going to go a little bit longer because I'm just jazzed up. I love these Mardu decks. I think it's so much fun to see this in action, and we're just going to enjoy it. Here we're keeping a 3-lander with Skull Clamp. Attach it to a creature. If it's a 1/1, it dies, and we draw 2 cards. Infantry Shield, again, a great card. Generous Gift for some removal, and a Signet. So, all right, not a bad start. Now with this Plains down, both of these come in untapped, so we love that. We'll play the Skull Clamp turn 1. We'll get one of our untapped lands, and we probably want to play one of our talismans, get them down. Dollmaker's Shop is a card that didn't come in this pre-con, but I love this card. On the one side, if one or more non-toy creatures attack an opponent, we get a toy token. And on the other side, all of our creatures turn into XXs, where X is the number of creatures we control. Just both killer abilities and very useful for us. But I think the answer here is a talisman, just to get ourselves set up, get ourselves keep going. So my thought is here, talisman, and now we have the 3 mana for Zurgo. Right, it's okay. We took the turn to ramp, and I think it's perfectly fine because we're still getting the value. Now this turn, I have 5 mana. I could shield and Dollmaker's Shop if I want to. We could put the Gold Knight down if I want to. We actually could Storm Singer. Storm Singer actually might make more sense, plus the Dollmaker's Shop here, because now next turn we can attack with the Storm Singer and get all that value on attack. We attack with the Warrior this turn. By off of Zurgo, that gets us a toy, right, off of Dollmaker's Shop. This Warrior is attacking. If it dies in combat, we draw a card. If it doesn't die in combat, it dies at the end of the turn, we get a life. We'll just say for the purposes of this playtest that it drew us a card, but, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't particularly matter, because I think we don't care either way. We want both. Coming to our next turn, we don't hit the land, which isn't ideal. But let's think. We could make up to 2 toys this turn. We can't cheat the Dollmaker's Shop like we can with some of our other abilities because they actually have to declare an attack, so the maximum we can get is 2 toys this turn. I think it makes more sense for the Gold Knight Commander here. Leave up the mana to use a Skull Clamp, maybe. And I kind of wonder if I just clamp this toy now, because once Gold Knight Commander goes off, I won't be able to clamp the toy this turn. So I'm kind of thinking of just clamping this toy now. Go to attack. These both declare the attacks. This makes 2 toys, right? Those, remember, aren't tapped and attacking. We get a Warrior that is tapped and attacking because of Mobilize. And then Storm Singer goes off. Hey, we've made 3 tokens. All of these now come in tapped and attacking. And all of these creatures, right, have all now gotten buffs. These 2 came in at the same time, so they both got +2/+2. This gave these up to 3. So these guys are going to be basically a +6. And it's going to kind of crescendo down. But now we're going to get some big damage, right, on our opponents as we're making these tokens coming in. These Warriors will have to die. Sorry. I apologize. So will the toys. So these 4 are going to have to die at end step. I have a gut feeling they probably didn't get blocked profitably. So all these are just going to die and end up life loss, right, for our opponents. But we needed to make sure we clamped that toy that we could clamp, right, before that ended up. And now as we come into turn 6, again, unfortunately, no other land, which kind of stinks. We're still at 5 mana. We still got lots. We just ideally would have loved more. Plumb the Forbidden's a really fun card. You can sack a creature to draw a card and lose a life, and you can sacrifice one or more creatures to do it multiple times. It's a great way to clear your tokens out and draw cards. I think we set up Rain for next turn. Leave 1 or 2 up to the Skull Clamp. Again, do we clamp now? Try to hit a land to not waste the mana? Because we got 2 mana left. I kind of like the idea, again, just try to hit a land. Jeez, no lands. Try to hit a land and try to get it down, but we still have like the mana up for Plowshares. And again, just do it again. Make the toys, make the warriors, get the buffs, and you can just start to see where this game plan, this really profits us and goes well. I feel like as I'm talking about this video, I'm just actually convincing myself to try Zurgo. So I guess maybe that'll be the result of this episode. 4-lander with Adeline, Cathar's Crusade, and the Siege. Love it. I mean, Adeline plus Siege is already good, and Zurgo. I mean, this is pretty great. Now it's just about getting all of them out and getting the party started. I could get the Jackrabbit down on 2. I don't get anything off the Ravenous, and I'm only going to make 1 rabbit. But what it kind of makes me wonder is if I play the rabbit, I could play Adeline next turn and get attacking with the rabbit to get the humans. But if I go Zurgo next turn, then I'm not attacking. So I guess this makes me ask the question, what does the board look like? If people are running slow, I still think it's Jackrabbit here for 0. It feels bad, but we have the pieces to make the Jackrabbit bigger later, right? Because now if the board's slow, man, that Mirkwood Bats is great. Now we Adeline this turn, attack with the Jackrabbit. We're getting, right, 1 rabbit and then 3 humans, right? 1 attacking each opponent. These go away, right? Or no, they don't go away. So why do I always think the tokens all leave? Of course, they might die in combat, but the truth is, now we're just amassing this board, right? We come to this turn. My gut almost says Zurgo, but at the same time, it could just be Mirkwood Bats. Because now that would lead to 4 more life this turn lost for our opponents. But I think Zurgo makes sense. We kind of want to get its ability on board, right? Making sure we can draw some cards. And then I'd play the Viserys here, because here's a sack outlet, right? Scrying us 1 whenever a creature dies. Now we go to combat, attack again, another rabbit, 3 more humans. If they're going to block and die and not trade, we could just sack them to Viserys here to draw, probably draw a couple cards this turn, right? And if they don't die, we could sack them in our main phase to deal damage. I mean, this is just kind of ideal, right? And then our next turn, there's our 5th land, we Cathar's Crusade, right? And now, I mean, we're just in grand shape. Go to attack again, rabbit, 3 more humans. That's 4 counters on everyone. Well, 1 counter on everyone, then 3 more. So, yeah, it will be 4 counters on everyone. And now we're just living Magical Christmas land. The Jackrabbit's going to start making more rabbits. Everything's going to hit hard. They're probably not going to die in combat. And we can still sack them to Viserys here to still, lose the life or draw the cards. You're starting to see where these sack outlets become so important. Next turn, we just dump this Siege in and get it twice. Again, I think I'm just talking myself into this deck over Caesar. So I'll let you know kind of how I think about that as we come up on the channel. If we can talk about this some more, but let me know, what do you think of Zurgo? I think this deck punches hard for the cost. We're getting that double Elspeth in there. We're getting so many great cards for such a great price for a deck. This is going to be a punchy of a bracket 3 deck. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to play. I'd love to know what you think. So let me know, and I'll catch y'all.